This is going to be a video about the PS4 controller. So the PS4 controller, right? A couple of days ago, I did a video about the PS3 controller. So the PS4 controller, it is obviously wider. It has more features on it, right? For example, the LED light, the touchpad, the speaker, etc. Out of all the consoles I own, I played on the PS4 at the most, right? Outside of probably at the PS3. So I am very familiar with this controller. And the controller, you can get them obviously many colors: white, black, blue, dark blue, camo, a green, a yellow, etc. See-through, and yeah. So the first thing, like with the PS4 controller that stands out is the touchpad. So the touchpad, right? So the touchpad here, it's basically that's what it is. Touchpad that was added like in certain features like in games, and this is a lot more. Involved or used as opposed to the 6-axis for the PS3. It is a lot more involved. So in certain areas in games, for example, in Infamous Second Son, if you recall back to the graffiti sections, right? You can use the touchpad to kind of navigate through the a graffiti section. Also, as well, the touchpad is a way for you to kind of pause the game. It's like an extra way to pause the game, right? And I can use it like this for certain emotion, kind of QTE segments, for example, in Detroit I Become Human, etc. So yeah, the touchpad was very cool. It was pretty cool. Another thing too, like with the PS4 controller, is that they added like this light at the back. The light is kind of like an indicator of what's going on. That's sometimes of the state of the controller, whether the controller like is low on charge, right? I believe it does correspond to certain kind of situations that within a game. For example, in The Last of Us 1 Remastered, you could use the controller was basically the a light indicated your health, right? So if you have a lot of health, it's blue. If you had a very little health, I goes to red. I did, talk about this before, but it is a pretty cool feature, right? The light as well, as you turn off the light, as you turn off the controller, it does flash, right? It does also indicate whether or not it is charging. Speaking of charging, this does use the what was it, the second USB stick, right? So the one that's very skinny, it does use that one to charge it. And that's my least favorite USB cord, as that one, it does slip out very easily. It's not very sturdy, but yeah. Another addition is a speaker. So the speaker, the microphone speaker, and the headphone the headphone jack, which you don't see often anymore. But the headphone jack, basically, you could plug in, and let's say if it's late at night and you're playing the game, right? You don't want a TV to disturb people in your house, so you could plug in the headphone jack the headphone and listen to the actual gameplay, right? So yeah, that was pretty cool. You can also use it for a microphone. You can also speak into it if it's a multiplayer game. You can also mute it. You can turn it down, up, etc. And the actual speaker, microphone, you could speak into it, and if you like to play online, GTA Online, Battlefield, whatever, 2K Online, FIFA Online, you could speak through these speakers, Call of Duty, etc. Now, like with the PS4 controller, basically just like the PS3 controller, in terms of the layout of the buttons. The directional up, down, left, right button, these shape buttons, X, square, triangle, circle, right? Basically, the R2 button, it is basically very similar to the PS3, except it is shaped differently. It is shaped slightly differently. Same thing here, same idea here, talking about the PS3 controller, right? Going back to the PS2 days where the controller would have the support on the R2 or L2 button behind it, but this one, there is no support on it. But I guess it does stretch more, right? The button does stretch back more. And, because it is longer, it is slightly longer than the PS3 controller and wider, it is easier to grip. It does have a better grip overall, right? I do like it more than the PS3 controller, right? It does, it has a very kind of that unique shape to it. That a unique size to it, but it is not too big. It is not too small. It feels kind of like in that intermediate size. they added, the PS5 controller, and that one is more thicker, and they did shape it more like the Xbox controller. But this one, I did like, the shape on this one. One feature here, I forgot to mention, you could double tap the share button. The share button was pretty, cool. You could record, obviously, with the PS4 controller. It added in the record, so you could screen record gameplay, right? So you didn't need an actual kind of, you didn't need to spend any money on any capture card or like a capture card unit device. You could just double tap on share, and then it'll literally record the gameplay footage. It is pretty cool. So that is a PS4 controller. Obviously, it's going to be more common than the PS3 controller, and it's going to be a lot easier to find the legit brand, right? The legit Sony DualShock 4 as opposed to the DualShock 3 or even the 360, the Xbox 360 controller. I'm going to do a video about that one as well. But yeah, it is easier to find, but with any controller, right, it doesn't matter what generation, you got to be careful, right? And because there's lots of third-party brands. But however, the thing with the PS4 controller, the interesting thing is that it is still pricey in terms of it is still expensive. I saw a PS4 controller for $64. And Mike saying, no, thank you. That's a crazy price, and this is last generation, right? But you could find one for, I could use one for $20, $30, $40 cheaper, right? Don't go over $40 because it is an older controller, right? But yeah. And this was during the era, right, where controllers were becoming more expensive than actual games, right? So controllers were starting to surpass games in terms of a price. Yeah, that's a PS4 controller, DualShock 4. Let me know down below what colors you have and how much you enjoy, whether or not you enjoy the PS4 controller. So yeah, please like and subscribe. Thank you.